Hello, Brady.
Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
Good to see you today.
Good to see you. Let's talk about a topic, self-esteem. And, yeah. Anything you want to share about this?
It's good to have.
Yeah, something very good, very important.
Yeah, and it's very easy to have negative self-esteem
Mm.
and want better self-esteem.
Yeah. We look at me this way, and also look at the point at the camera. Yeah.
Now, self-esteem is something tricky. Is there any reason why you wanted to talk about self-esteem today?
I recently read two books talk about that. One is by John Maxwell, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. The other is by John Mark Comer about practicing the way. It talks about the same thing, and there's something overlapping. And one thing is John Maxwell. He mentioned he's a public speaker. He mentioned whenever he speaks, he want to communicate four things to his audience. The first thing is about help the audience to see a new possibility they never seen. That is, they can become a better version of themselves. And the second is let them feel valued. And the third thing is about let them feel empowered, get the inspiration and knowledge to do something, not just to feel good. And the fourth thing is about to apply and multiply what they have learned from his speech. I think that's very good to help people to see the new possibilities in their lives. When I read the Bible, I think that's the same thing when I read the Proverbs. Like King Solomon was writing down the Proverbs. He wanted to educate because he saw the possibilities in the younger generation's life. They can live a better version of themselves, or live a maybe not that better, not that very maybe worse version of themselves. It depends on how they respond. And when I read this book by John Mark Comer, Practicing the Way, it talks about a story. And it's about a story when one person wants to die, and he asked a priest, a pastor, and the pastor asked him, "Do you believe in God?" He said, "Okay, no, I don't believe in God." But the pastor responded, "Yeah, it doesn't matter, but God believes in you." And he mentioned when Jesus was calling his disciples to follow him, he said, "Whoever wants to follow me and take up your cross and I can give you a better life," he said, because when Jesus calls them to follow Jesus, and Jesus saw the possibilities in people's life. If they do the things they're supposed to do, they can become a better version of themselves. And that's very encouraging. But that ties with today's topic, self-esteem. And people can have a very high self-esteem or very low self-esteem. But if we have a proper self-esteem and we see the value within us and we connect with God, so God can add more value into our lives. So that's why I think this topic is very important. I know lots of people, they are suffering from low self-esteem, or people are successful and they have very inappropriate high self-esteem. They are so maybe proud, don't see themselves properly. So I think that's a very important topic we can tap. Yeah, share about your thoughts about this topic. That's you.
Took a pause. So
Yeah, no problem.
something that comes to mind is the letters to the 7 churches. Because there were churches that were struggling and they thought they were doing poorly, but they were quite well measured by Jesus. Then there were other churches who thought they were doing well. So one of the things and then Jesus also thought that So there was a church that was doing quite well from its own measurement, but Jesus was quite harsh with them. So what's interesting there is, by what ruler are we measuring ourselves? Like, how are we measuring ourselves? To what standard are we measuring ourselves? High esteem, low esteem, what is the standard? If we all measure ourselves against Jesus, well, we're all falling short. But if we're measuring ourselves to what we can see in the people around us, it's easy to fall into high self-esteem because I have more money than that person from outward appearances. It's easy for ego to develop. It's easy for one to think more highly of oneself than we should, especially if it isn't even your own money. If you have wealthy parents and you're wealthy just by birth, and someone else is earning all of their own money, but they don't have as much as you, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing yourself to be better than someone else, and then that fueling your high self-esteem. Also, the danger there is that your self-esteem is now rooted in something that is potentially unstable, because money comes, money goes, economies change, business situations change. If that money were to disappear from the parents, or if the parents were to cut off that person, now their self-esteem is in the toilet because they don't have the money anymore. They built their self-worth on sand, basically. That is easy to shift. One thing I've noticed in my men's groups is that each person who opens up about how they really feel about themselves, we're all so focused on where we aren't enough and someone else is better than us in that area, that we fail to notice where we are above average. And what's always interesting is hearing how people self-assess and then contrasting that with how the group would assess that person. Because it's almost always that the person is too harsh on themselves and they are served well by taking in the feedback from the group and adjusting their estimation of themselves more highly than they had it set previously. Because from the inside of ourselves, especially if we're honest about where we're good, where we're not, it's easy to be too harsh on what isn't the way we want it to be yet. Human beings tend to focus on the problem that isn't solved versus the problem that is solved. It's part of why the Bible reminds us to count our blessings, because it's easy to take your blessings for granted. So having the group available to help balance out our inner imbalance, it helps get a proper, healthier view of oneself. And that over time, especially that consistent reinforcement of a more balanced view of ourselves through the eyes of others and the honest feedback of others, it helps to reset self-esteem to a more proper level. Not too high, not too low, but honest and accurate to where they're at.
Yeah, and I know, Brady, you are leading several men's groups and have many conversations with adults, males. And so based on your knowledge and experience, what are the causes for low self-esteem or high self-esteem? What are the possible causes?
The biggest cause, be it high or low self-esteem, often is self-talk. Because we spend all of our lives with ourselves. If my self-talk is encouraging and reinforcing and uplifting and motivating, I am much more likely to think very highly of myself, estimate my capabilities to be enough to handle whatever I'm facing, and I'll be able to find a way to get through. That will result in me getting things done, and that will reinforce my belief in myself. The flip side is if my self-talk is negative and disencouraging, if it's often people's self-talk is abusive. There are men who voice things they say to themselves that I wouldn't let someone else in the room say to them. But because they're in their own head with those thoughts, I can't stop it or intervene or even notice it's happening until they tell me. So when we get to these self-talk patterns, often this self-talk isn't even coming from this person themselves. It's something they've heard at some point in time from someone else said to them. Like a parent saying to a child, like, you're terrible, you're awful, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're whatever it is. If the person internalizes that and starts telling themselves that, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they're playing out this pattern. They're playing out this thought that was never even theirs to begin with and ought to have been rejected when it was first offered. But because it happens when we're so young, so impressionable, it becomes part of us without us realizing it wasn't really part of us. And that's one of the things we do in men's work is we listen to each other's self-talk out loud. Just by hearing how men talk about their day, we start to hear, hey, hold on. You just said that, of course, you failed that because you're stupid. You're not stupid. You do this, this, and this. Those are all complicated, difficult things you have to be smart to be able to do. Your self-talk doesn't match who you are. Something's out of balance there. And we're able to point that out for each other because these things are they're so well camouflaged as part of us, we don't realize they don't belong there. And we help each other trim them out and replace it with something more accurate.
Yeah.
Like an example is, I'm never going to, I'll forget if I don't say this last bit. One of the most important things is that we help guys shift their self-talk from something like, I'll never get this, to I'm still learning this. Where the I'm still learning creates the opportunity for growth to happen. Whereas I'll never get this is a dead end, it's a stop. So having self-talk that's at least open-ended, that allows growth, is much better than self-talk that is limited. It's not as good as self-talk that's like, I'm the best. That's dangerous. That can lead to arrogance and overconfidence. But self-talk around, I'm growing, I'm doing better, I'm learning, I'm still figuring this out. That's the self-talk that changes men's lives.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, here in this book by John Maxwell, The 15 Laws of Growth, here's a quotation I want to read. It resonates with you have shared. Here's this. So it's by two businessmen, John Assaraf and Mary Smith. It talks about the negative images and negative messages that children receive growing up. It said this about the ratio children can receive of the positive messages from their parents or negative messages from their parents. Here's the quotation. By the time you've been 17 years old, you heard, no, you can't. The average is 150,000 times at the age of 17. And you heard, yes, you can. It's only about 5,000 times. So that's the ratio is 30 no's for every yes. That makes for a powerful belief. That makes for a powerful belief of I can't. But that's the source. Maybe people have a negative self-image or low self-esteem because the message they received from their parents, from their teachers, their adults. So the ratio is 30 to 1, negative to positive messages received. Yeah, that's resonant with what you shared.
It's very true. And leading men's groups for so long, it's affected the way I went into being a father. I went into a father being deliberate about how do I talk to my son when there's a need for me to correct what he's doing. And what is so much more effective than denying them something that's bad is to encourage them towards something that's good. If my son's running on a rainy day, do I say, don't run? Or do I say, walk carefully? Because one is a message of don't, no, you can't. You can't run, don't, no. Am I sending that to him, or am I encouraging him with what I want him to do? Walk safely, walk carefully. Be careful of the slipperiness. I'm encouraging him to spot the dangers and navigate the challenges, as opposed to not doing something at all. And my hope is that it will reduce the amount of negative self-talk I accidentally put into him.
Yeah, good. Yes, self-talk is very important for our positive negative self-image. I think another reason, another cause is comparison. I think you shared in our Sunday school about the good comparison and the bad comparison, and can you share more about that?
Absolutely. The good comparison is comparing oneself to one's self, because you are the only person who's lived with your specific combination of challenges. So the only fair person for you to be compared to is you. And if you look back on your life and you can see where you've grown, where you've improved, where you've met a challenge, and where you've dealt with it, even when there are major setbacks, how did I handle that setback? Was I mature about handling it? Was I immature for less time before becoming mature about it? Sort of like, did I throw a tantrum for 10 minutes instead of 20 minutes? How much am I improving? And there's always improvements to see. And even if we perceive ourselves to be less, like, oh, I'm 40, I used to be in great shape when I was 20, let that be an inspiration that, hey, I was in good shape. What was my life like back then? Maybe I wasn't working a desk job. Maybe I wasn't eating all the time at my desk because I'm stressed about work. I was out doing things physically, I had a physical job. So comparing yourself to yourself allows a comparison that can also be informative of, like, hey, what were my habits when that thing in my life was better? If I bring some of those habits back, perhaps my life will shift. And it can be a good reminder to be healthier. It can be a good reminder to do the consistent things that we ought to. Also, like, hey, you know what? I have this challenge at work. I'm just really struggling to get good at this part of my job. Remembering back to another time something felt challenging. Well, what did I do? Well, I buckled down. I had my coach helping me. Oh, that was an athletic challenge, but this is a business challenge. But I had an athletic coach there. Maybe I could find a business coach or a business mentor to help me navigate this new challenge. So comparing ourselves across time, it helps us see what the path forward might be. It helps us to appreciate where we've come from and how far we've grown. It helps us to remember that things take effort, because the negative comparison is when we look outward and we see the end results that others show off or enjoy visibly. We don't see the 15 years of blood, sweat, and toil that they put in that we honestly aren't willing to, and we can make peace with if we know that trade-off. It's like, oh, look at him, he has a yacht. Yes, but it cost him 3 marriages and his relationship with his children. I'm not making that sacrifice. I'm okay without the yacht if I know it costs that. Because the yacht's not just $40 million, it's the time it takes to be able to earn $40 million. For most men, they wouldn't want to make that sacrifice. Not just that they aren't able to, it's that they aren't going to be willing to make the sacrifices in life they'd have to make. And that's not to say that every person with a yacht has a terrible relationship with their family and failed marriages, but it honestly will have come at some other cost. It could have been friendships, it could have been athletic opportunities they had to sacrifice, it could have been just other paths in life they didn't get to take. They had to make sacrifices of some kind to have what they have, just like anyone else had to make some sacrifices to have what they currently have.
Yeah, that reminds me. Yeah, that's very good. It's about healthy comparison. You're always comparing with something. If that's a bad comparison, that can bring either pride, that we don't want to grow as an individual, or brings frustration. We are frustrated, we don't want to grow. But the good comparison is we compare ourselves with our past and with our goals. And we share about some people, we see some people, they already demonstrate the result we want, but we didn't see the effort, the sweat, and they put into it. And that ties to, I think, John Maxwell. He mentioned that sometimes when some young people came to him say, I want to do what you are doing now. And his response to them is, if you want to do what I do now, you need to do what I did before.
You have to do what I did 20 years ago, which was sitting down and writing terrible things that no one ever read because I had to get better at writing.
Yeah, and consistently learning, reflecting, and improving, so can build up a better career, better version of yourself.
Mhm.
So we mentioned two things. One is self-talk. The other is about comparison. And I think maybe another cause for low self-esteem is about frustration or setbacks, failures. You know, the vice versa, the cause for very high self-esteem is about achievement. So how do you think about this? So how could we handle?
I have one more thing to say about comparison before you move on.
Yeah.
When it comes to comparisons, an easy way to remember it is for measuring yourself and your growth, and for measuring for purposes of self-esteem, always measure against yourself. When it comes to measuring yourself against others, that is meant more for inspiration for you to see what's possible in life. Look to what others have as an inspiration of, oh, that's a thing people can do in this life. Oh, that's possible. Oh, cool, that's possible. Let the fact that they've done it inspire you and get curious about what they had to do to make it happen. And then decide if you're willing to walk that same kind of path. That's how to deal with comparisons. Measure yourself against yourself, and looking to others is for inspiration. Or also to see if someone's in need of help.
Yeah.
You see someone's down, you would measure them as below you. Are you okay? What's going on? Do you need help? Especially if they're an acquaintance or a friend. That's what the measuring is meant to do.
Yeah. So that means there's another way of good comparison. Is when you compare with others, you got some inspiration from others. But that reminds me of Allen Iverson, the previous NBA player. In his Hall of Fame speech, when he delivered that speech, he mentioned about the players inspired him, like Shaq O'Neal and some other people. But he mentioned Michael Jordan, and he said Michael Jordan is most important to him. Reason is, and he said, because Michael Jordan gave him a vision. It's give him a vision. I want to become a person like Michael Jordan. I think that's a good good comparison. We see someone, I want to be like him. Give us inspiration, a vision of ourselves. I think that's very important. When we have vision and we know that's the goal I want to achieve, that's easier for us to stay focused, be focused, and to avoid the distractions of comparing with others.
And so much of getting things done in life is about having an example that's done it already. For the longest time, I think a 4-minute mile, no one was running a 4-minute mile. And then one person did it. And then all of a sudden, many, many, many people were able to do it. It's sort of like the proof that one person was able to do it is the encouragement psychologically that was required for a lot of other people to be able to do it. Just knowing that it's possible and doable, because he did it, therefore I can. Versus, 4-minute miles are impossible. That self-talk results in impossible to run 4-minute miles. Whereas, no, he did it. If I push, I'll be able to as well. And then people work. Almost everything in life is like that.
Good. So let's move on to the third cause.
Frustration.
About frustration or achievement that can cause very low self-esteem or high esteem. Do you have any thoughts on this?
So many. Frustration, often hand in hand with failure or unmet expectations. Frustration and failure is feedback from the world that you need to get better at whatever it is you're trying to do. And what's frustrating is that sometimes you can lose the game even if you didn't play and make any mistakes. The other person was just better that day. Or in terms of, like, say, a business contracts or a sales proposal. You put in a bid for a job or a project you want to be working on. You could make no mistakes in your proposal, it's just someone else had a better proposal. And then it's one of the tough things in life is that sometimes, despite our best efforts, we don't get what we want. The takeaway from that is, what self-talk does that external experience result in? I was giving it my all, or I was showing up with what I thought would be enough, and then I didn't get what I want. Is the feedback, oh, I'm a failure, oh, I'm stupid, oh, I'm dumb, or oh, I'm never going to succeed? What's the self-talk that we engage in when we get that outward experience? Oh, I need to try again. What can I learn from this? I need to ask my coach about this, or I need help with this. There's different kinds of self-talk that will result in different kinds of takeaways. So being aware of how you respond when frustrating things happen, that's going to give a sign towards what kind of self-talk you have in your head. And once you know what kind of self-talk you have in your head, one of the keys I take my guys through is to write out their self-talk and then write out the opposite of your self-talk and try to catch yourself talking to yourself negatively and then immediately repeat back the opposite. I'm stupid. No, I always can learn. I'm a failure. I've succeeded at many things, this one in time. So that kind of switch, because these self-talks, like, the more you think a thought, the better your brain gets at thinking that thought. So it does take time to replace one with another, but it starts tipping. And maybe you still feel bad about yourself, but you feel less bad about yourself. And then you hit a tipping point. And you don't want to go vertical, because that's just runaway ego. But you want to hit a point where you're aware of your weaknesses, but you're not weighed down by your weaknesses. They're not a block for you getting things done that you want to get done. The flip side would be success, where it's easy for too much large success, or even small success, to go to someone's head. And the saying, pride goeth before a fall, it's because the success if you let success change your heart and the way you go about doing things, you will lose the foundation that got you the success in the first place. If you, from a biblical point of view, if you forget that all things are done through God, and if you start to think that you did it yourself, God will back away to remind you of where that came from. It's not that he wants to take it away, it's that he sees, oh, it's necessary to take this blessing away because this person is forgetting me because they've received this blessing. It's better for them to lose the blessing and remember me than it is for them to forget me and keep the blessing. So keeping your heart right with God, keeping God centered is paramount. Another part of it is the practical doing of the task. A house builder who builds a large company and gets very confident with, oh yeah, we build the best houses, best foundations, best siding, best insulation, best architecture. We just build everything fantastically. If he lets it go to his head, and if he lets it change his heart, and if he starts to believe that they can't make mistakes, that they can't get things wrong, it starts to bring in apathy where they stop watching the details so closely. And watching those details, making sure the important things are getting done right, starts to fall, and their diligence falls. And eventually that leads to some major problem somewhere. And that's a damage to the reputation, that's maybe, God forbid, a loss of life. That pride that creeps in, it has us show up to the thing that we became prideful of in the first place differently, and we're no longer performing at the same level, thus making it almost a guarantee that we will fall because we've stopped watching out for the things we were watching out for on our way up to the success. When you get up to the success, you don't get to stop worrying about the things. You have to keep doing what you were doing to get there and learn the new things about the next level.
Yeah. I remember